answers are inside. Yeah, I am a 21st century superhuman. Now is the time. Come on everyone, let's celebrate. We are the children of the sun. I can see you when I look into your eyes. We are the same, we are light, and we are one. Here now, hear my ancient prayer and sing along. We are awakening as one. And we can make a difference. Yeah, we can be the change it takes to make the world.
Hi there, I'm Carrie Ellis, author of 21st Century Superhuman. This is 21st Century Superhuman TV. And with me tonight is Rob Marquez. Hey Rob, how you doing?
Good, Carrie, how are you?
I'm good. So happy to have you here. And we're going to do questions and answers tonight on debt and getting free from debt. And we did a show previously on how the whole debt process works, and it's kind of a shell game. So I encourage people to listen to both of these together because they kind of help. This will help answer some questions we didn't get to in that one. And I've had people loving that information and even writing to me and asking questions. So we're going to try and answer some of those. So tell us a little bit more about how you got involved in learning about debt, and did you ever have to deal with this yourself?
Yeah, I definitely dealt with it myself. But again, getting over the fear is the hardest part. And you got to remember, when I was writing documents, not just for debt, but for other things too. I mean, it all boils down to debt in the end. I don't care what the issue is nowadays. There really is. It does boil down to a financial matter. But you know, I was scared. I mean, I was writing, again, I wrote 200 and some officials, you know, and was putting the truth in their lap. Like, that was scary. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I can tell you, out of 225 officials that I wrote to, I can give you on, actually, I can't even tell you on how many hands the responses I got, because I didn't get any. I got zero. 225 officials. We're talking secretaries of state, governors, police in every sheriff in every county of the state I was in, every police barracks of every state I was in, everything. And I got zero back. Nothing. No responses. Okay, so that kind of tells you, oh, okay, well, number one, it must not have been against the law. And number two, what I was doing, of course. And number two, no one really wanted to respond because if they did, they would have admitted the truth. But they didn't. Most of them didn't realize they admitted the truth by not responding anyway. That's just contract law. But so yeah, so I did a lot of this stuff. Yes, I was very afraid, but I just went through so many different things that I'm no longer afraid. I mean, the truth is the truth, and you know, if someone can't provide the truth, then who's really at fault here? You know, and that's all we're doing is just bringing the truth. That's it.
So Rob, you're a courageous soul, and you're also, I believe, gifted in this area. You've managed to study things that a lot of us haven't studied, and you've looked up the law, you've learned the law, and we're also doing a series besides these on debt on basically how to free ourselves in this financial and economic commercial system. So I encourage people to look for those videos as well. So let me ask you, what happens, we'll go with our questions and answers. What happens when the debt goes to a debt collector?
Okay, so what happens is the bank tries to collect from you for however many months. It's usually up to about 6 months. Sometimes it takes a little longer. After that, they write it off. Okay, so what that means is they're going to write that off on their books as quote unquote bad debt. Now, their insurance company is going to step in, and the insurance company is going to pay 3 times the amount of whatever that unpaid balance is. So if you have a $3,000 credit card that you didn't pay for 6 months and they couldn't collect it from you, insurance is going to pay them $9,000. So now the bank is completely paid. Okay, they've written it off, and they're getting a tax credit on it.
What? Why did they pay them
Because
Why do they pay
write-off.
them? Why do they pay them 3 times as much? What's that about?
I'm not huge on insurance law, but I mean, it's just like insurance does with everything. You know, they have this just ridiculous amount that they pay out for whatever the policy is, and they go ahead and pay on it. I mean, and the insurance is all based off of our value, our good faith and credit anyway. Because then people say, oh, well, you know, then the insurance company's out money. Well, are they? You know, why are they paying out 3 times the amount? You know, maybe they shouldn't pay out 3 times the amount if they're going to be out the money. And how do they seem to have an endless supply of it? You know, these are common sense questions. Why they do it, again, I don't know. As part of the policy as much as I know. I haven't gotten too far into the insurance thing.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's what they do. And then what they do is they sell the account. They don't sell the debt. So when a debt collector comes at you, he's coming at you, or he or she is coming at you with an account, not a debt. And that's what they'll say. We've purchased this account, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, what about the debt? What did you purchase that's debt, right? So what happens now is, because it's unsecured and you can't assign that debt, right? You can't make the account a debt. You can't assign the debt. Now you have a third party that is totally outside of the original contract between you and the creditor. So this third party has no right to collect from you because there is no contract between you and them. There might be a contract between you and Bank of America, or, you know, Capital One or Synchrony Bank, or one of these banks that has a credit card, but there's no contract between you and ABC Debt Collector. There isn't. And because it's unsecured, there must be a contract there for them to collect. Well, there isn't one. So they can't collect legally. The only way they can collect is on your ignorance, which is what they do. So they set you up in a contract.
Wow.
And then people say, do that. Well, they give you this little piece of paper on a debt collection notice, says here's the verbiage. You have 30 days to dispute the validity of the debt, or we will assume the debt is valid. Now, because you don't respond, you do one of 2 things. You either call them and start arguing, or haggling, or trying to work out a price, or you don't respond. Both actions, you've admitted that the debt is valid. Because if you're arguing it, you must believe that debt is there, or you wouldn't be arguing it.
So how would you respond appropriately to that thing in the first 30 days?
Well, they give me 30 days. So I write up a whole questionnaire of, you know, is there security given for this debt? Do I have a contract with you? Please provide me the contract. Please provide me the security instrument used to provide this debt. Please verify with proper accounting under GAAP, you know, generally accepted accounting principles, where the debt was created. What assets did you give me to create a debt? You know, and I just hit all these questions, boom, 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 and I start lining all these questions up. Then at the end, I give them 30 days. I go, you have 30 days to provide, same thing they just did to me. I flip it right around. Oh, you gave me time to dispute it? Not a problem. Here's my dispute. Now I'm going to give you 30 days to provide all of these things that make a valid debt. And if you don't provide them in 30 days, you're in default of this agreement, right? So what do? Nothing. They don't respond, or they send you a stack of, and I tell them, the court has held that a stack or a computer-generated printouts are not validation of debt. Anybody can make something look like an account from Capital One or whatever on a computer and print it out and send it. So, because what they'll do is they'll respond and they'll send you like 4,000 copies of all of your bank statements or your credit card statements. And they go, there you go, look, it's yours. Well, if you're gullible enough to buy into that, they won. But not me. I don't know. What do you mean? Who is that? It has my name on. I don't even say it has my name. It has a name on it. It's got their statements, their computer printouts. Anybody could have made that up. Heck, my 10-year-old son's good enough with a computer to generate one of those. How do I know that's real, right? It's not a validation of debt. So then what I do is respond back. Oh, nice try. Here's what I call it as a notice of insufficient response. Nice try. Here's your notice. That is insufficient as validation because that does not prove that a debt exists. Sorry. I'll give you a courtesy 10 days. Okay. And then when they fail to do that, then I send them a notice of default. Hey, default notice. You're in default of your obligation to provide me full disclosure as to, do we have a contract? All the things I listed in the argument, I default them on. You have now agreed to the fact that you have no contract. You have now agreed to the fact that you didn't give me any assets to create a debt. You have now agreed to the fact that this debt has been charged off and has been paid for. You now agree to the fact that I offered you tender of payment and you refused, and under UCC banking law, you have to discharge. So I go through and I list all of the things that they now agreed to because 30 days is up and they missed their window of opportunity. What I've just done in those steps is create a security agreement. Now I have a security agreement against them, and I could go place a lien on them if I want. I could go lien them for the amount of the account. See, so it really does get tricky, and there are some intricacies to that, like using a notary, how you use the notary, things like that. But you'd be surprised if you just do a basic Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. We can put the link up to the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act in Cornell Law. If you read through that, you could even use that and write up a dispute letter, and send it to them. And that scares them off most of the time.
So, Rob, that's great information. So that's information you would put into practice the first 30 days when you receive a notice from a debt collection company. How about in that first 6 months when your bank is trying to collect from you?
Right. Now, your bank, you can send them a cease and desist phone calls letter. Okay. In other words, you're saying, hey, cease and desist all phone calls. The problem there is the bank does have the right to call you. But they usually don't. Like, they'll just call and say, hey, it's Bank of America. They usually don't go to your friends and family. They usually just call you directly, the bank, and they just want to work out a payment because they're just trying to satisfy their insurance requirements before it gets written off. Now, the ones who get ugly are the debt collectors. After 6 months, they're calling you, they're calling your neighbors, they're calling the store down the street they know you frequent, whatever. They're calling everybody. So in that case, that's when you want to send them a cease and desist letter.
So yeah, that's like
and it's just all you.
That's like, how does practical management happen of this just everyday response to this aggravation of being hounded and shamed by these people, to your family, anybody they can find to call. I've had people, asking questions about this, and it just seems like it's a horrendous position. So say you miss that first 30-day window because you didn't know this, and you're in the position where you have, one or two, another one credit agency coming after you. And that's a horrendous position. How does somebody defray that? How do they defray the calls to themselves? What happens when they get a piece of mail? What happens when family or friends are called? It makes you want to just run away and hide somewhere, right? But, and most people I know get talked into at least paying on interest so that they can keep the people quiet. And so anyway, go ahead and give us some tips here, Rob.
Yeah, well, those phone calls are money in the bank, and here's why. Because under the Fair Debt Collection Practices, which is 15 United States Code 1692, okay, subsection 1692, under 1692C, you can notify them to cease and desist phone calls. So all it has to be is a very simple letter, please do not call me, my family, or anyone associated with, and don't even say me, put your name in there. Please do not call anyone associated with, John Jones ever, and the only way you can communicate with me is by U.S. mail, certified mail. Now, they won't send it certified, but even still, they have to send it in written correspondence by mail. That's all you need to write. And you send that to them certified. Now, this is to the debt collector. You send it to the debt collector certified mail and document the day that they receive it. You can send with a return receipt also. That way, now you have physical evidence that they signed for it. So certified mail, return receipt, simple letter saying, stop calling me and anyone that knows me under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You don't even have to cite the law. Just say, stop calling, okay? Because it's not your job to know the law for them, right? You just tell them to stop calling and document it and tell them the only way they can communicate with you is by written mail, all right? Now, once you do that, if they call you after the date that they've received it, every single phone call from that particular debt collector is $500 fine. Every time they call you, it's a $500 fine. So if you've got a ruthless debt collector that you notified and they keep calling you and your family, you just keep writing down the date and time they called, answer the phone, get their name. Hey, how you doing? No, I don't have any money. What's your name? Who you from? Oh, okay, keep writing it down. So you get about 40 or 50 of these. Now do the math. 40 or 50 times 500, you've got some good coin. Then you turn around, you hire an FDCPA attorney, you give him all the records and let him go in and do it. He's going to get paid because the debt collector has to pay his fee, plus they have to cash out all the fines for all their phone calls. So you just made yourself 30 grand off a $2,000 credit card. So you just got to know, you got to know how to play the game. So that's how you get them to stop calling you. And normally they're pretty good with that. Like once you notify them, you normally don't get many phone calls after this. They usually stop because they know that if they do, they're going to get nailed. So that's one way to stop the phone calls is send them a cease and desist letter. Very simple letter. You don't have to be, an English major to write it. You don't have to be studied in law, nothing. You're just telling them, stop calling me, my family, my friends, my neighbors, and only communicate with me by mail. That's simple. That's all it's got to be. Sign it, date it, send it off.
And you
certified mail.
You kind of made the point, don't even say me, just use your name, right?
Just the name, yeah. And there's a reason for that. I mean, if you say me, it's not a big deal.
Right.
But I typically always use the name. We'll get into that in the other phone calls, why that is.
So you collect,
the name is not
these, and in what way is it worth $500? I mean, have you ever collected on that?
Oh, yeah, we've got clients that we send them over to an FDCPA attorney, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act attorney. And he goes after them and gets the debt wiped out, and these people get like $8 grand in their pocket. $8, $9 grand in their pocket. Yeah.
And that's from tracking the phone calls, right?
Just from tracking phone calls, yep.
Yep. So you also, we might as well mention you have, even though this is your field of expertise, and I love it, and just you happen to also be a silent partner in a debt resolution group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
We'll put that, we have that under the other video. We'll put it under this one as well. But you're so knowledgeable, and I just appreciate that you're sharing some of this information with us. So what about the process when people start feeling like ashamed because their families look at them like there's something wrong with you?
Well, again, that's a personal journey. I mean, for me, I know that these are the facts, okay? And the facts are right, they're in there. They're in the law, and I know they're the facts from the results I've gotten. So, for me, it was just a matter of saying, no, now wait a second, the bank cannot lend its own money. That's against the law. So who did it lend the money, or whose money did it lend? And then they charge this off, and then they get paid on the insurance. And there is no money because the Federal Reserve said that dollar bills isn't money. So wait a minute, if my family is calling me irresponsible and all of that, that's their problem. I am not going to be a slave anymore because I'm too knowledgeable about the system to be a slave and be afraid and be fearful of it, because your fear is all that's keeping you down. And the more you fear, the more you manifest more debt, the more you manifest more stress, more health issues, more, because you're constantly afraid that I'm being bad. I'm being so in order to really just get out of your stress, again, you really have to put away the fear, because that's what this is all about. And the shackles that are on you are basically fear, because you fear that you're not abundant, and you fear that people are going to look at you a certain way, and you fear all of these things that you're afraid of, when really, once you walk through fear, what happens when you get on the other side? Everything's fine. It's all here. So that's really, really, again, it's a personal journey. It really is.
So, Rob, let's just come back to, we really have been in this monetary system for probably thousands of years. I don't know how long debt and all of that has been around, but I mean, Jesus was throwing the money changers out of the temple, whether that's a metaphor or whether it's true. That was 2,000 years ago, right? So we're talking about a monetary system. Ancient Rome, a monetary system has been imposed over humanity for a very long time. And I believe it was put there to harvest energy off of us. When we live on an earth that is extremely abundant, it has enough food, it has enough of what we need. If we just were living in a way where we were, as I say, breathing and smiling and centering in love and exchanging our talents and our skills and our creativity with each other. But somehow we agreed in this duality game, as it's called, to subject ourselves to living in this system as an experience, as an experiment, and I think you and I agree about this. It's why I really like doing these with you, because we recognize from a spiritual standpoint, there is no point in pointing a finger at anybody anymore and saying somebody's bad or we're the victims, because we're living in a quantum world and we literally have the ability to change the creation of this reality. But it begins in our minds and hearts. And I know I have friends who are very conventional and conservative, probably family members, who, if they see these videos, they'll probably just look at me and go, man, Carrie's way out on the edge, because she's talking about the monetary system not being the greatest thing. I remember when I heard Michael Tellinger talking about the monetary system 2 years ago and saying that it was negative. And I thought, how would we ever live without money? And how would we ever live without the monetary system and the banks and the debt? And I've learned so much since then. I've spent the last few years, Heather and the One People's Movement, as we mention occasionally, who wrote about us being owned by the corporations and traded on the stock market, and how we are being freed from that. And now you studying out about the debt system and how we really free ourselves from the system. It's a big deal. We're not just accidental tourists here. And I think you came in with a mission to help change things on planet Earth. I did. We are part of probably really a rising collective of millions on the planet at this point who are starting to recognize these things. And we don't fully know how to live in them. We're learning, we're teaching ourselves. And I want to thank somebody like you for being a thought leader in this. I know you're working on a website and where you'll be able to lead people by the hand through this step by step in very simple ways, or also offer them services. And I've had people writing me saying they can't wait, because we do need guidance, and we may start understanding this and getting it, but we still may not know how to follow through. And you've put in years of study. They talk about Tiger Woods being a great golfer. They talk about it taking 10,000 hours to be a real expert in something. And I think I'm an expert in progressive thinking. I've been doing this for, 30 plus years. I've been on the cutting edge of the change of human thought. And the reason I do these shows is to help seed our consciousness and our awareness with the possibilities. And so that's what we're doing right here. And this information about debt, can be a little bit difficult to embrace it and to take it into our lives and to act upon it. But we want to give people the inspiration and the courage to know that this is a really false system that we're living under. And it has been it's been set up against us. And it has been set up to use our energy rather than to give us abundance. And the truth is, the source field is ever flowing with abundance. And there's many ways to get what we need in our lives. And part of that is happening through a collective of people like us, just exchanging our skills and our resources with each other. So why don't you just give us a few thoughts on that, Rob? I think you and I both want to encourage people to find the courage within themselves to begin looking at their own relationship to the system a little bit differently. And I know it takes a lot of courage, it takes education, it takes awareness, and it doesn't just happen like that unless it does, So go ahead, give us some of your thoughts on that.
Right. Yeah, the bottom line is you can say all the mantras in the world and do all of the spiritual maneuvers you want, to bring abundance, but you will never have abundance when you are full of fear. You have to let go of the fear that you won't have, the fear that this system provides everything, because it doesn't. It provides everything off of your back, period, because the system itself has no energy without you. It takes your energy like a vampire. That's what it does, and it's draining you. So you really, really have to let go of the fear and just know that everything's going to be okay. And if we start working together and see what value really is, which is our life energy, I've said this before and you'll hear me say it over and over and over again. If we can do that, we can begin to move into another paradigm, and we can get rid of all of this, debt and want for money and these old belief systems that, were put on us for control by a few who control all of the money. The money's being controlled by the same hands for thousands of years, but that time is over. And until you can really accept that and stop being afraid, you're going to struggle, So let's just give it up already and start working together and make this happen, because it's really where it's at. I know people who are studied in law and stuff who know what I know and are still deathly afraid, but they always wonder why is everything happening to me? I know all this stuff, but I can't never get well, because you're still afraid and you're still fighting. That's why, like I said earlier, I live free. I don't worry. I just don't worry.
That's beautiful, Rob.
There's nothing I can't handle.
Yeah, let's come back to that, because I think you and I have both chosen to simplify our lives. You and your path, and I on my path. And you were talking about this in the last show on debt relief. And, I live so simply. I own like 2 duffel bags of clothes. I own a 94 van, which I run really simply. It offers me a place I can camp. I can stay a lot of places. I can travel. I don't have payments. I don't have vehicle payments. I have chosen to license out of the state of South Dakota, which gives me the freedom to not be in the state. It also gives me the freedom to use a very simple insurance. It almost doesn't cost anything. It's a driver's insurance, which I could probably get along without, but I've kind of, how can I compromise enough to be in the system, to not be like having to fight all these little battles, but just do it as simply as possible? And people say to me, how do you live the life you do? Right now I'm caretaking a beautiful house in the Yucatan of Mexico because I don't have a lot of attachments to place or
Right.
do certain things. Now, people have children, who have families, who have jobs. Sometimes they have to stay in one place, but we can do things like move into community households, or we can rent instead of own. There's so many things that are going on right now that can become part of a more healthy lifestyle process that isn't this, I have to have what the Joneses have. I mean, I have great clothes, and almost all my clothes come from thrift stores or little cool shops where people are.
And every.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying that I was just jumping in on that and saying, yeah, everybody's scenario really is different, and it is about minimizing. I mean, I minimized everything, had to go back to an apartment situation, all of that. But you know what? I learned that I don't want to own anything. I've given ownership up completely, which is great. I don't own anything, but I'll tell you, I know how to control it all, because I don't own it, but I know how to control it, So again, these are concepts that we're not taught, that these elite people with billions of dollars use every day. They don't even own anything. They control it all. They know how.
True. They have it all in trust and they don't own it. And the
They
other
don't own
thing,
it.
that's what the indigenous people said too. They said, we don't own anything. How can you own the earth or the sky?
You can't.
Right.
You can own creation, sure, but ownership is liability in this commercial world that we live in. So we want to give up ownership. That's why I say I don't even own my name anymore. I gave that up.
That's pretty
I don't
cool.
even own it.
I like that.
Yeah. I have special use. I mean, I can use it by permission, but I can't give it out in certain circumstances or I'm breaking the law.
I cannot wait to learn at your website. I'm so totally excited. I've tried little bits and pieces over the years, but I'm excited to have some guidance in these things.
Again, the only reason I haven't put it up is because I want it to be solid with these last few pieces. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get it. I'm working on it every day, putting more material on there. So
right.
It is getting built.
So leading up to that, we're going to be continuing our series of educational videos on finding your true freedom. And that is what this is about. And thank you, Rob, so much for taking the time to answer these questions that have been coming in on freeing ourselves from debt. It's a big deal what we're in the middle of right now. And there's going to be a lot of change, I think, going on in the next many years, maybe 20, 30, 50 years, that's going to change the course of human civilization. And we're all part of that.
We're going to see a lot of that this year. So again, when things really, we haven't even seen it bad yet. It's about to get real bad. And if it does, and I don't mean to fearmonger in that way, what I'm saying is if you can let go of attachments, it won't be that bad.
Right.
Because you can people like us, we've given everything up. So when it gets quote unquote bad, we're like, hey, what are you talking about? We've been living this way for years. We're good.
I know. I've had friends tell me stories about their grandparents in the Depression, the Great Depression. And the grandparents lived on a farm and they never even knew there was a depression because they were just already living this simple, self-sustaining life. And
yep.
I think it's why some of us really enjoy being out of we'll call it the first world, where there is a lot of pressure of commercialism, banking, purchasing, owning, and enjoying living in these simpler cultures. I've traveled a lot in Mexico, Central and South America, even South Africa, and been able to find, really beautiful, simpler ways of life where many people are already growing food and people are looking out for each other, and just it's a nice alternate path if that's something that appeals to someone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So Rob, thank you so much. And I say onward and forward, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next segment, which will be part 3 of our Finding Your True Freedom series.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you very much. And I hope, whatever we presented here helps. And I can't wait to get on with the series and the website.
Right on. Okay. And to all our listening audience, remember to breathe, smile and love, and open up those neural plexuses in the frontal lobe and the back of the brain for intentions and perceptions of love. Be a positive creator in this amazing world, this new world that we're moving into as 21st Century Superhumans. Many blessings. Ciao.